a beautiful city. But what if I told you that hidden behind all that beauty was a decades-long housing crisis visited upon us by the machine of NIMBYism? Sprawling suburbs, low-density housing, traffic-dependent development. What if I told you that the solution didn't lie out there? It actually lay in your backyard. It's a long fight against the machine of NIMBYism, but this is what the end product looks like. This is sustainable development, walkable development, climate sustainability. There's a train just 2 blocks that direction. This is the answer to everything we've been fighting for I was in the middle of something. Okay, Olympia Coffee, the grind for the people on their grind. Because if you're on your path to financial freedom, financial independence, a 7 Series BMW, maybe even a Lambo, I don't know. Go out there, chase your dreams, make sure you do it well caffeinated. Use my code, ChrisW15, Matrix 1337. Tip your barista, because you never know where your next sale is coming from. Grab those beans, grind those, inject it into those veins, and let's go. Okay, all bits aside, we're here at the new construction accessory dwelling unit. It's been a long journey, almost 2 years in total, but where there used to be just one single family house, there's now 3 homes. And this one here is a custom accessory dwelling unit. If you remember from our last video, it was a pre-approved plan. This one, because it's actually attached to the primary house, is a custom design, custom plan. And we're gonna go through in order the steps that you need to take to build a house just like this. And we're gonna break down what it should cost at every step of the way. But first, crib tour. Okay, so before we even get inside, there's something I wanna draw your attention to. Because if you wanna build 2 additional units in your yard, one of them has to be attached. What exactly do we mean by attached? If we look right back here, you'll see kind of where the gray wall meets the white wall. The white wall is the single family home, and the gray wall is where it transitions into being the accessory dwelling unit. And that is what's required by the city of Seattle. So let's go ahead and head inside. We've got a 2-bed, 2.5 bath, 1,000 square foot home here. Open plan living. We've got our living area up front here, dining room here in the middle, and then open plan kitchen at the end of the house with kind of a small private backyard area. First floor also comes with another half bath. That's where the 2.5 baths come in. Next to the pantry, laundry, and utility there on the right. And then this area by the stairs, we left it open for, since this unit is for sale, we left it open for whatever the buyer wants to use it as, whether that's like a bench seating area or how it's being used right now. But nice windows, nice light, open plan living really makes the most of the 1,000 square foot limit that you have with accessory dwelling units. Upstairs, now that we've covered the first floor, metal railings cost about $1,500-ish for this type of railing. Flooring, anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 to do a set of stairs like this. And here we are at the landing, and an important thing here is like, you don't want hallways. So we made the landing as small as possible to make the bedrooms as big as possible. So to our left is the primary bedroom over here, which has its own bathroom. And then we also have the secondary bedroom, which also has its own bathroom. So we step in here, we can see we've got generous bedroom, closet on the opposite wall, another half bath with smart mirrors, and full bathtub as well in here. And if we head over to the other side of the house, we've got the primary bedroom, which is a bit larger, has some additional space, has kind of bigger windows, better views, and a larger bathroom with its own floating vanity, lighted smart mirror, and shower. Okay, welcome back to another breakdown segment. We're gonna do things a little bit different, and we're gonna start in chronological order. So we're gonna start with the first thing you need to do. If you wanna build a house in your backyard, or you wanna build an accessory dwelling unit, what's the first thing you need to do, and how much it's gonna cost? And we're gonna work our way from start to finish so that you know what you need to do, when you need to do it, and roughly how much it should cost. Let's dive in. First up, before you can do anything, of course, you gotta buy your property. Assuming you found the property, it's a whole nother video on how to actually buy. But assuming you've got the property, the very first thing you've got to do is get your survey. Surveys, they're usually called a topo and boundary line survey. Those tend to cost about $2,500, maybe up to $3,500, and they take anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 weeks, depending on lead time. So even before you close on your property, start calling around, find surveyors, ask me, I'll give you a recommendation, and you can get your survey dialed in as soon as you close. So that's step number one. After you get your survey, next up is design and permitting. So for this unit in particular, I spent $11,200 on design and permitting. I worked with Duncan McCormick. He did the structural himself, he did the design, and he got me through permitting. And that came in at around $11,000 all in. And you might remember from the last video, we used a pre-approved design, and our permitting and design cost was much closer to about $5,000 because we didn't have to do a custom built unit. But one of the benefits here of doing the custom built unit is that we got a kind of a nicer product. Like, this house is nicer than the one right next door. The one right next door doesn't have as many bathrooms, it doesn't have as nice of a floor plan, doesn't have quite as many details as you can put in when you're doing a custom build like this one. So we're about $13,000 in so far. We've done survey, we've done design and permitting. Once you've gotten through that, first $13,000, $14,000 chunk of work, and you've gotten your permits, next up is excavation. When you do your excavation, you can have the surveyors come back out and mark out exactly where your foundation is gonna land. Or, if you wanna work with your excavator, you can just plan it out yourself. You can work with your excavator to make sure that he's digging in the right spots, and you can save yourself about $1,500. That's what I did. I figured out, with the excavator where we needed to dig, and kind of saved $1,500 there. Because excavation is expensive. I ended up spending $25,000 all in on excavation. So that's digging down and also putting back a lot of dirt. So you've got to dig out, build your foundation forms, and you got to bring the dirt back in. You got to compact it. There's a lot of hauling in and hauling out. So import, export, dirt fees are about half of that, about $8,000 to $10,000. And then labor and other material costs bring you in at about $25,000 total for excavation. So we've got a hole in the ground. Now we've got to build a foundation in there. And foundation for this house came in at $18,130. That's all the formwork, it's all the concrete, and that's about it. You get your formwork and your concrete for about $18,000 on a house this size. Kind of during your foundation and after, you're gonna wanna have your plumbers lined up because the plumbing goes through your foundation. So you need to get your plumbers out here pretty early so they can start putting these sleeves in the foundation walls. And that way, when they're running the sewer pipes out, water lines in, you can already have existing sleeves and you don't have to go core drill your foundation walls, which will save you another couple $1,000s. So don't make that mistake. Once you're kind of through foundation, plumbing, you're gonna be ready for framing. Framing is probably the most expensive item on this list. So it's labor and materials for framing. That ran me about $37,700 for this job. That's about half labor, half materials. So labor came in at about $15,500, and the remainder $16,000, $17,000 was materials. And this, because it's a custom build, it's a little more complicated because it's connected to the primary house over there. It's even more complicated. Like, one of the things you're absolutely going to want to watch out for when you do attach accessory dwelling units is the seismic retrofit. Like, seismic retrofit should be a word that should instill fear in your heart, because if you hear the word seismic retrofit, you might have to go tear out all sorts of walls in your existing house and retrofit them with new hardware, and that just skyrockets your cost. So be very careful when you're trying to cost out an accessory dwelling unit that's attached, because you might end up with ballooning costs that you didn't expect due to seismic retrofits. So that's something to watch out for. Ask your architect about it. If you're using a general contractor, ask them. Just be careful of the seismic retrofit. So after framing, you're going to want to get your roof on as quickly as possible because it's Seattle, it rains a lot, and ideally your framing won't get too wet. It won't be wet for too long. And roofing, a simple pitched composite roof, 15 to 30 year shingles, shouldn't cost you more than $5,000 on this type of roof. 1,000 square foot home, ADU, it's got a footprint of 500 square feet. You shouldn't be paying more than about $5,000 to get that thing roofed. After your roof's on, you're gonna want windows next to your doors. I upgraded the windows a little bit. I ended up spending $8,500 on windows here compared to about $3,000 on the house next door. So these are nicer windows, there's more casements, they're a little bit bigger, there's more of them. So that we paid a little bit more for nicer windows and ended up with a slightly nicer product. Was it worth it? I don't know, we're going to find out. Right, so after windows are up, you can start doing your siding. And siding, labor materials came in at $24,000. So that is all the siding across the connection between the two houses and actually wrapping around a part of the other house. So when you're doing attached accessory dwelling units, your scope is gonna expand a little bit. You're gonna end up with doing more work than you initially anticipated because it has to attach directly to their house, which means you're gonna have to remove siding, you're gonna have to attach the framing, you're gonna have to re-side, and as always, you end up wanting to do more stuff. I replaced windows, repainted the entire house, did the trim. So your scope, just kind of plan for your scope to get a little bit bigger whenever you're doing attached versus a detached unit. So after you've got your siding on, then you can jump to electrical. So electrical, a good rule of thumb is $10 to $12 a square foot for everything. So they could bump to 15, but think $10 to $15 a square foot should be what electrical will cost you. So in my case, it came in at about $10 a square foot, including service. So that's the meter box on that side of your house. Came in about $11,180 in this case. HVAC, this is a 3-head system, kind of like you see in a lot of ADUs, 1 in each bedroom, 1 in the living room. You generally can expect to pay about $4,500 to $5,500 per head, which is what I ended up paying. So we came in at $15,500. That also included some of the exhaust fans, and it is pretty helpful to kind of bundle all your HVAC together. Get one bid from your HVAC installer for your mini split heads, but also all the exhaust fans you need. That's the exhaust fan over your range, that's the exhaust fans in your bathrooms, and that's the exhaust fan in your laundry room. Get those all bid at once, bundle them together. Usually comes a little bit cheaper and gets all the work done at the same time. After you've gotten through all of that, then you're ready to insulate. So insulation, house this size, tends to run $5,000 to $7,000. In my case, it came in at $5,000, and we were able to keep the cost down because there wasn't any spray foam. Whenever you need spray foam, your cost is gonna bump up quite a bit. But whenever you can do fill or bats, you shouldn't expect to pay more than $5,000 to $7,000. Once you've got the thing insulated and inspected, then you can move on to drywall and interior paint. I bundled, once again, I used the same contractor I used last time. We did drywall, texture, interior paint, exterior paint, all together. And once again, great, love it. You heard me rave about it in the last video, and this video, I feel the same way. Bundle all those things together, use one contractor. Because even now, here when we're at close, we're just a couple weeks out from closing on this. This unit has been sold, and you might have noticed blue tape that is kind of all over the house. So that same drywall and paint contractor is coming back for the final touch-ups before we hand this unit over to the homeowner, looking brand new. Definitely bundle that scope of work together if possible. After you've got your drywall on, then we're doing interior doors, flooring, trim, casing. Like most builders at this price point, I didn't do casing around the windows. That tends to add a couple $1,000s. So no casing around the windows, and we got baseboard around the walls and casing around the doors. So interior doors, flooring, and trim, including the stairs, came in at $13,800. Flooring, you should expect to pay $150 to $2 per square foot for install, and then $3 to $5 for materials. On the stairwells, you can kind of, rule of thumb, $100 per stair for install. And that can give you a pretty good idea if you're getting a good bid or not. And once you've got that stuff done, then you can install your kitchen and bath vanities, countertops. I did mine from Pius KV. GS is another good one. Lux Cabinets is another good one. That came in for this house, which you kind of see behind me, at $10,845. And that included all the bathrooms. So that's 2.5 baths, full kitchen, countertops, labor material, $10,800. After that, you're ready for tile. You can do your backsplash like you see behind me, bathtub, shower, half bath, backsplash, and tile. So labor materials came in at $6,200 for this house, which is maybe a little bit cheaper than maybe you might expect, because I didn't do tile on the floor. I did LVP throughout, so all flooring is luxury vinyl plank and no tile on the floors. So it just makes it a little bit easier and a little bit cheaper to go that direction. And for this price point of house, that can be appropriate. If you're a little bit farther north and you're looking more in the $700 per range for sell prices, you'll definitely want tile. Shower doors, I only needed one, and that came in about $1,800. So shower doors tend to run $1,500 to $3,000 depending on how much glass you have. So just kind of pencil in $1,500 to $3,000 per shower. After that, we've got electrical and plumbing trim. So this is just all your like trim pieces. So this is your light fixtures and your bath faucets and your kitchen faucets. I spent $2,500 on electrical and plumbing finish trim pieces. Gutters for this house and a portion of the single family came in at $1,300. Appliances and sinks came in at $2,800, which is pretty great. Like if you kind of work those deals at Lowe's or Home Depot, you can find relatively inexpensive appliances, get them delivered and installed. I like to have them installed by the person who's delivering them. That way, if they're damaged or have any issues, you can get them to address it. You don't have two different people to track down. So final punch list items. So after you've gotten through most of the things interior, you're gonna have to come back and like fix things, and that's gonna be damaged drywall, mirrors. In my case, the final kind of punch list items cost about $1,600 in labor. And I think the final interior piece is railings. Like metal railings, you can kind of plan for about $1,500 per railing for a standard stair in an ADU. I ended up paying $1,620 for this railing, but $1,500 is like a good rule of thumb when you're thinking like, I need a metal custom installed railing. Yeah, so that's all the interior items, brought us to about $240,000, but exterior stuff can actually get quite pricey. Like you don't think of landscape as costing a lot, but there's actually another $30,000 of expenses between landscaping and condo docks and staging. So landscaping in this case is fencing, a new permeable paver driveway, and curb cut. It came in at $23,000. So that's grass, pavers, fencing, curb cut. And part of the reason why that's so expensive is because permeable pavers tend to run about $25 a square foot, fencing, permeable pavers at $25 a square foot, concrete at $10 a square foot, and then excavation might be another $10 a square foot. And then on top of that, whenever you do curb cuts or anything that touch parts that aren't on your property, you're paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars in inspection fees and permit fees. So I spent $1,300 on permit and inspection fees just to replace my existing curb cut. And that's the part of the driveway that touches the road. Inspections cost $350 an hour, and the inspectors, sometimes there'll be two of them, and they'll sit there and watch your contractor's work, and they'll charge you $350 an hour times 2 for every hour that they stand there and watch your contractor's work. So whenever you're doing anything that involves Seattle Department of Transportation, expect to spend $1,000, $2,000 plus getting it done from a permit perspective. If you want to sell, if you don't want to hold and rent, and if you actually want to sell the house, you're going to need to do condominium docs. You have to declare a condominium and form an HOA, incorporate an HOA, and those costs tend to run between $5,000 and $8,000 to get different tax IDs for each parcel. And what that does is it allows you to split off the individual homes and sell them to individual owners, or to get loans against each individual portion or each home on the lot. So in that case, condo docs, HOA incorporation, and transfer meeting came in at $6,500 in this case. And then since this home was for sale, staging was $2,500, $2,000 for all the staging that you saw in the walkthrough, plus about $400 in rental fees, brought us to $2,500. So all that together brings us to $271,000. So that's all in start to finish, from design and permitting all the way through the sale of the process. This 1,000 square foot, 2-bed, 2.5-bath home cost $271,000. And you might be asking yourself, why is this one about $45,000 more expensive than the one next door? And it's a great question. And I think probably the biggest reason is that I didn't work as hard. I didn't work as hard on the actual house. Like, I took a step back and I hired kind of more experienced contractors that cost a little bit more. And in effect, like, I bought a lot more time for myself. But the really cool thing is that the other house doesn't have a driveway. It doesn't have a permeable paver driveway, doesn't have a curb cut, didn't replace 25 feet of sidewalk. It didn't add 80 square feet of home to the existing house, because this is attached. So we actually gained 80 square feet of livable space on the existing house as well. So when you actually subtract out the cost of the attachment and the cost of the driveway and the curb cut and the sidewalk, we end up with a very similar dollar per square foot. We come in about $245 a square foot, versus last time it came in about $227 a square foot. So very similar cost, but I probably had to physically work 50% less. So for maybe a 10% increase in cost, I did 50% less work. And really what that comes down to is your network of contractors and how you manage them. So, like, if you want to be a real estate developer, if you want to build houses, you have to network endlessly. You got to find the best contractors out there. You got to befriend them. You got to have a good relationship with them. You got to trust them. They have to trust you. And ultimately, you'll end up with a much better product with much less work, and it won't cost you that much more because you've built the machine that builds the house. And that, my friends, is the goal, is to do less work and build more houses and have happy customers, happy homeowners that you can transfer these houses to.
How long do you think that was?
I don't know, 10 minutes? So that was a lot. If you're still here, thank you. I'm impressed because I just kind of went for 20 minutes straight about all the costs of every item. I tried to do it in order, so hopefully that was helpful. And if you'd like to know more or you'd like to connect, feel free to drop me an email at walter.chris@gmail.com. I'd love to connect. My passion, my purpose in life is to build more housing, more infill, climate sustainable, walkable infill housing. So I'd love to chat with you, see how I can be helpful on your journey of turning your backyard into homes for more neighbors. Excited to help in any way possible. So reach out and let's see what we can build together.
How much does your masterclass cost?
$10,000 per minute, because together we're gonna inject caffeine directly into our veins and be on our grind every day.
Financial freedom!
Financial freedom!